Hi, everyone. Hope you're enjoying the conference so far. My name is Roy. I'm part of the product management team here at Elastic, and with you today to talk about Elastic Cloud and why it's really the best way to use the Elastic Stack. So to set the context for this session, by now, I assume most of you are familiar with the Elastic Stack. At the heart of it, we have Elasticsearch. On top, we have Kibana, and we also have a list of products that are used to easily ship and ingest data into Elasticsearch, such as the Elastic Agent, our various beats, and Logstash. On top of the stack, we build our three solutions: enterprise search, observability, and security. And what we're going to talk about now is the different deployment options that you have to use the Elastic Stack. So obviously, you will always have the option of downloading an artifact, configuring it on your own, while managing the compute, storage, and network in your own data center, in a private or public cloud. And that means that you really take on a lot of the responsibility in monitoring and making sure that your cluster is healthy and happy. But over the past few years, we see a huge adoption of our own Elasticsearch service. And the idea is that we want to make it as easy for you to take advantage of the Elastic Stack with reducing the amount of expertise required in order to do so. To give you a little bit sense of the numbers of Elastic Cloud, this is something that we've been doing for a while now. And over the past 8+ years, we've been hard at work in improving and building our platform and being able to offer you Elasticsearch as a service. Our platform is deployed in over 45 regions across all three big cloud providers. So regardless if you have a preferred cloud provider that you would like to use, and wherever your other applications are running, or if you want to be closer to your users, we're here to support you. When thinking about scale, today we support north of 750 terabytes of data ingested daily, and that's done across tens of thousands of deployments. Now, for those of you who maybe are less familiar with our hosted service, I'm going to explain a little bit more about what a deployment is in just a few minutes. Now, most of this session will be demo-driven. I really want to emphasize how easy it is to create a production-ready deployment and starting ingesting data and getting value out of that within a matter of minutes. But I did prepare one slide that talks about some of the benefits and consideration of using our managed service. So as you can see from the title, something that is common from a lot of managed services, and again, talks about the trend that we see in the past couple of years, is that companies really prefer to focus on building their own products, supporting their customers, and delegate as much as possible to the teams and companies that build the products that they use when it comes to managing them, managing those products for them, and them just being able to use the products themselves. And that's why also the first item I have here is fast time to value. The idea is that we want to make it really easy for you to get started, and it doesn't matter if you have a simple, small use case at first, and then you grow over time, onboarding additional teams or expanding to use additional use cases. That's something that can be easily done, and again, within a matter of minutes. The second item I have here, and also something that's important to emphasize, is the flexibility when it comes to the payment model. So we offer a pay-as-you-go payment model, which means that you only need to pay for the resources that you actually use. There is no contractual obligation when you sign up with us, or any committed spend or any commitment to consume a certain amount of resources. And you can also sign up to our service either directly with us or use your account with any one of the cloud providers. For example, if you have a committed spend with any one of the three cloud providers, you can also draw down from that committed spend towards using our hosted service. Next in line, we have the operational simplicity. And this is something that I'm going to probably repeat a few times during the demo. And I think this speaks volumes, especially to the people in the audience that maybe have some experience in managing Elasticsearch clusters in production and can appreciate the complexity of supporting operations, such as adding more capacity to your cluster, being able to upgrade when new versions are available, being able to very quickly restore from snapshot when needed, and also making sure that you take periodic snapshots of your cluster. And of course, all of that needs to happen completely seamlessly. So your developers, your end users, your customers can continue and use your products without any any interference. Next, we have the development simplicity. So we also appreciate the need to automate a lot of those procedures. And for that, as you can see from the list we have here, we offer a REST API layer, but also if Terraform is your weapon of choice, we can use our own Elastic Cloud Terraform provider or SDK, or for those who feel more comfortable using a terminal instead of a user console, you can also use the Elastic Cloud command line interface. But again, all of the options are there to make it easy for you to automate the deployment management. Security, definitely something that is top of mind, both for us and for our customers. We have a dedicated security team here in Elastic that works to make sure that we have all the most up-to-date security controls in place. And we also obtained a very long list of certifications. So make it easier for your security teams to give you the green light and can go ahead and use our hosted service while you can sleep better at night, knowing that your data is safe with us. Last but definitely not least, the advantage of using the service that is managed by the creators and maintainers of the Elastic Stack. And that will give you access both to our support engineers, developer, consultants, but also there are a lot of teams that work behind the scenes in making sure that you get the best possible experience when using Elastic Cloud. For example, we have a dedicated performance team that constantly evaluates introducing new machine types into our platform and also fine-tunes the machine that we use in order to give you the best possible performance in the most cost-effective way. So by no means is this meant to be a complete list of everything you need to think about. Obviously, there are a lot of additional advantages of using our managed service. What I try to do here is just bring up a few topics for you to think about when evaluating, starting to use the Elastic Stack, or maybe starting to onboard a new project and considering using our Elastic Cloud hosted service. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump into the demo section now. So what I'm going to demonstrate here is a fairly simple but also very common observability use case. In this scenario, I'm going to install the Elastic Agent on my own laptop and use it to ingest system metrics into my Elasticsearch cluster. Now you can imagine the same can be done over your entire fleet of hosts, and it could be virtual machines, laptops, bare metal hosts, what have you. And also in addition to system metrics, you can of course enable additional integration to ingest other types of data or expand the use case beyond observability for security use cases as well, or search use cases and so on. So now jumping into my Elastic Cloud account, you can see that I have 3 deployments here already. But again, for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to create a new one. So in this very simple form, potentially all I need to do now is click on the Create Deployment button, and that's it. I have a production ready deployment ready to go within a matter of minutes, but I do want to walk you through some of the configuration options that you have. So if we click on the Edit Settings here, you can see that I can select between the 3 cloud providers. In my case, I'm actually going to use Azure and Ireland as my region of choice. Next, I can select between different hardware profiles. So maybe for my use case, I'm better off using compute optimized hardware or memory optimized hardware. But in this case, I'm going to keep the IO optimized hardware. Here I have access to the latest version, which I'm going to use. And also important to mention, in our managed service, you get access to the stack versions on the same day they are released. So you can immediately upgrade your deployment, take advantage of all the newest features, bug fixes, and so on. Here, if I want, I have the option to create this deployment using a snapshot of another deployment, which is great if I want to quickly spin up a deployment for testing purposes, but also obviously in case something went wrong and I want to very quickly create a new deployment using the latest snapshot of a different deployment that, again, in case something went wrong and I needed to be up and running as fast as possible. Moving on to the advanced setting page, here, the first option that I have here is I can select if I want to auto-scale this deployment. Now, this is a great feature to use since it removes the need to monitor the storage capacity of your data nodes and also the memory capacity of your machine learning nodes. We will automatically scale each one of your data tiers or scale up and down your machine learning nodes according to the actual usage of your deployment. Moving down to the Elasticsearch section, you see here that I have a tile for each data tier. Now, I won't dive too deep into what data tiers are, but I would definitely recommend if you're less familiar with the concept of data tiers in Elasticsearch to take advantage of this conference. There are a lot of awesome talks around this topic. And I would definitely recommend taking the time to learn a little bit more and see if this is something that you can use in order to really find the best optimal cost to performance balance for your deployment. In the info link here, we can see the hardware that is used for each one of the data tiers. And again, we use different hardware profiles for each data tier to really give you the best possible experience. And this is not something that you need to worry about. We will automatically place the relevant data nodes on the relevant hardware. Here I have a drop-down where I can select the size of my data tier, in this case, the hot and content data tier, which is the only one that's required and enabled by default. If I later want to scale up my deployment, it's as easy as selecting the new size, and then I'll click on the update button, which I will show you later. But in this case, I'm very happy with the default size. Next, I have the option to select from the option to deploy this data tier across 1, 2, or 3 availability zones. Maybe if I just want to use something for testing purposes, I can go with 1 availability zone. Obviously, the default option is 2. Again, making sure that this is a production-ready deployment. If it's a mission critical or for any other reason, maybe if I want to use 3 availability zones, I can do that as well. But in this case, I'll just keep the default option. Here, I can go and edit additional data tiers to my deployment. But in this case, since I'm going to use auto scaling, this is not something that I need to be concerned about when creating the deployment. This will happen automatically. Next, we have dedicated master nodes. So again, talking about the operational simplicity, not something that I need to manually monitor or configure. Dedicated master nodes will be automatically added to my deployment once I exceed a certain threshold. And this is something that I don't need to worry about or be concerned about. Next, I can also add dedicated coordinating nodes if that's something that is relevant for my use case, and also machine learning nodes. Similar to the other data tiers, since I'm going to enable auto scaling, not something that I need to worry about now. Next, we have Kibana, APM and Fleet Server, and Enterprise Search. Each one of them is included by default as part of my deployment. And as I can see here in the summary tile, at this size, the default size, all 3 are part of our free tier. So I don't need to pay for them. I can just immediately start and use them. And of course, if later on I need to scale them, I can do that. But now I can go back and actually enable auto scaling. And as you can see, now the auto scaling badge was added to all of my data tiers and to my machine learning nodes. And also the configuration is a little bit different now. Instead of having to manually select the size, if I click on the edit setting here, now I have the option to just control what should be the maximum threshold. So here I can see the current size, but I can also configure what should be the max possible size for this data tier, just to make sure that the auto scaling mechanism will not scale it above a certain size. And I can also set the size manually. For example, if instead of storage, I want to increase the size to have more memory or more CPU as well. But I'm going to keep all of the default options here. And the last thing that I want to show you is that if I click on the equivalent API request link, I can also see the request and copy paste it if I want to use it for my integration to automatically create deployment, or even just use it as reference. So clicking on the create deployment button now, it will take normally a few minutes for the deployment to spin up. So I'm going to let the time-lapse magic work, and I'm going to see you in just 1 second. Okay, and we're back. My deployment is ready. I'm going to click on the continue button, which will drop me directly in Kibana homepage. So we have the Kibana homepage here. As I mentioned before, I'm going to use the Elastic Agent to ingest data. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the Fleet application, which will allow me to enroll the Elastic Agent that I have on my own laptop. Okay, great. So we have an Elastic Agent that is already enrolled now. This is actually the Fleet server that is running as part of my deployment, what I've shown you before. But now I'm going to click on the Add Agent button here. And as you can see, I have the step-by-step instruction to enroll a new agent to the Fleet server. So I actually already installed downloaded the Elastic Agent to my laptop. In this case, I'm going to use the default policy. Again, like I mentioned, I am going to ingest system metrics, so that's already included. But I can, of course, add additional integrations to the default policy or create additional policies if I need those. And the last step here will be to run this one-line command and enroll the agent to my Fleet server. So I'm just going to do that from my terminal here. It normally takes just a few seconds for the new agent to enroll. So I'm going to close the flyout, and let's just wait for the page to refresh just to make sure that the agent was enrolled successfully. Awesome. And we see that the new agent is now enrolled, and again, using the revision 1 of the default policy. And you can also see now that I have an indication here because there is already a newer page version available. I have that indication as well. But from now on, once the agent is enrolled, I can manage it directly from here without needing to SSH to the machine or doing anything like that. And again, I can continue on to install additional agents or enable additional integrations. The next thing that I want to do is I want to take advantage of the different data tiers. So in my case, I want to store data for relatively long periods of time, and I want to do it in the most cost-effective way. So since I'm using metrics data, I'm going to use the metrics index lifecycle policy that I have pre-configured here. And as you can see by default, only the hot phase is enabled. But in my case, I want to move the data to the warm phase after 7 days, then move it to the cold phase after 30 days, and finally move it to the frozen phase after 90 days. And now the frozen data tier allows me to search the snapshots directly. So that really gives me the option to search almost unlimited amounts of data. You can also notice that I don't need to configure my own snapshot repository. By default, I can use the snapshot repository that we configure out of the box for you as part of the Elasticsearch service. So that's fine. I can click on the save policy here, and that's it. I'm good to go. The auto-scaling mechanism will automatically add the different data tiers when needed, and also scale them up when more storage is required. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to go. The next thing that I want to do is also enable machine learning jobs for anomaly detection. So going to the machine learning application, I'm clicking on the create jobs here. And again, I'm using the metrics data stream that is pre-configured. But as you can see here, I can, of course, use the wizard to create my own machine learning job. But I also have a suggestion here to use the pre-configured job for metrics data, which is exactly what I want. So You can see here I have the 3 jobs that will be created. Clicking on the Create Jobs button here, and within just a few seconds, here we go, the jobs are created successfully. And you can see from the indication here, although when I created the deployment, I didn't enable or didn't edit dedicated machine learning nodes. This will happen automatically because I enabled the auto-scaling feature in this deployment. The last thing that I want to do is just head over to the metrics application just to show you that, of course, the data is being ingested. This is the host that I have the Elastic Agent installed on. You can see all the dashboards and data starting to be ingested and displayed. And again, I can, of course, continue and repeat the same over my entire fleet of hosts in my company, my organization, depending on which information I want to ingest. So the next thing that I want to do now is I actually want to head back to my Elastic Cloud account. And you can see here that this is my deployment. What we can notice actually, if I'm heading over to the activity page, you can see that the configuration change is in progress. The auto-scaling mechanism already picked up the fact that we now need machine learning nodes in this deployment and automatically adds them to my deployment. One other thing that I would recommend doing in order for this to really be a production-ready deployment is also enable stack monitoring. This is something that can be done from here and will allow me to ship logs and metrics data to a dedicated monitoring deployment that I have as part of my account. The last thing that I want to show you is this deployment that I have prepared yesterday. And just to give you a sense, again, if you go into the activity page, how the auto-scaling mechanism kicks in and adds the different data tiers. So in the same way, it immediately picked up that I need additional machine learning nodes, but then I use a bit of a different time configuration just for the purpose of the demo. But you can see here that then another plan change was triggered to add warm nodes and then adding cold nodes as well. And you can see when I added cold nodes, also master nodes were automatically added to my deployment. Finally, frozen nodes were added. And in the last plan change here, as you can see, once the machine learning jobs completed, the auto-scaling mechanism also automatically disabled the machine learning nodes from my deployment because they were no longer needed. So it really gives me the best cost experience, and again, without me needing to do anything manually. Now, an additional things that I would probably want to do is, for example, use traffic filters. So if I want to limit access to this deployment only from my own VPC or from a certain IP range, I can go ahead and do that. I can start and generate API keys to be used by in order to automate certain procedure. I can upload additional plugins and extensions and so on. So there are, of course, a lot of additional features available in Elastic Cloud that I can use, and a lot of them are covered by other sessions in this conference. So again, I highly recommend taking the time and joining those sessions to learn more. So I try to squeeze in as much as possible within a very short time frame. I hope that you found this session useful. And if you already have an Elastic Cloud account, that's great. If you still don't have one, feel free to sign up for our 14-day free trial and take it for a spin. Thank you very much for taking the time and joining me today, and enjoy the rest of the conference.